Hi guys, welcome back to part 2 of the Good Luck Care Bear for St. Patty's Day. We are going to get started right away with doing the muzzle, making this bear look a little more bear-like. He's pretty funny looking now. So you're going to need your white, and you're going to need a green that's this color. Now, the original one that I made the heart nose and the freckles the same color as his body, which was wrong. When I looked at the picture of the Care Bear again, it's actually the same color as the Shamrock. So we're going to correct that in this video. So we're going to need a 5mm for the muzzle, but we are going to be changing to a 4mm for the little heart nose. So we need to make a magic ring. And we're going to put 6 single crochets inside. So I'm just using a 4-weight yarn. It's not worsted. You are going to need a stitch marker, and we're going to put 2 single crochets in each stitch around. So we're building this amigurumi style. So, wow, I'm going to struggle today. So after your first stitch, that's where the marker goes, but I'm just going to count to 12, putting 2 in each stitch. That's 12. So your next round is going to be 1 single crochet and an increase. So that's 1 single crochet. Now I'm going to use my marker. And then the increase in the next stitch of 2 single crochets in the same space. Your next round is going to be 2 single crochets and an increase. 1, 2 single crochets, and then your increase. 2 single crochets in the same space. Your next round is going to be 3 single crochets and an increase. And then we're going to do 3 rows of just 1 single crochet in each of those 32 stitches. And then you can fasten off. So I will put up my pause screen and I will see you on the other side. So this is what my muzzle looks like. So I'm all done. I'm going to fasten off with a sewing tail, obviously. I'm going to sew it to the face. So just go in, make a slip stitch, and then make sure you have a sewing tail decently long. We're not closing this, so we're going to sew it on just like this. Pull that through. Tighten your knot down. So I like to just go into the next stitch and pull this through. A couple of reasons why. When I pull up, it kind of evens it out, because we did do it in amigurumi, so we did it in a spiral. And 2, I'd rather start sewing from the underside of the project. So as far as this guy, I really don't have to do a whole lot. I like to just make sure he's not going to come back open, so I pull tight, nice and tight, close that hole, and then I make a knot and I just kind of push it down. It's not a tight knot, because if it was tight it might go right through, and then I leave a little nubby when I cut that off. So that's all I do for that. So now that your muzzle is done, we need to do the nose and the freckles before we sew it to the face, because it's just easier to do it that way. So I'm going to get my evergreen. This is the color it is. This is just a Red Heart Super Saver green. It is worsted, so using the 4mm G is going to be a little tight, but you want to make a magic ring. And inside this magic ring, you're going to put 2 single crochets, you're going to put 2 half doubles, so yarn over, go into the ring, pull it up, pull up a loop, yarn over and go through all 3 of those loops. That's a half double, so put 2 of those. You're going to put 1 double, so yarn over, go in, pull up a loop, pull through 2, then pull through 2. Next is going to be 2 half doubles again. Two singles. I want you to chain 1, pull is closed, and to slip stitch I want you to go right into this center hole from your magic ring and slip stitch. It's a little awkward, so fasten off with a long tail, because we're going to sew it to the muzzle, and we're also going to make the freckles with it. So pull everything nice and tight. It is awkward looking until you pull down on this. So when we start sewing, once you pull down on this, it does turn out heart-shaped a little bit. This guy I'm just going to shove right through to the other side, because I'll just use him to tie a knot. I didn't really sew it down, I just did it the easy peasy way. I want to turn this so that my thing is on the side to start sewing with, so I want it facing this way. So you just need to figure out where your nose is going to be. And I think mine is just above, so I put the point of the heart onto my magic ring middle circle, and that's where I put the nose. So I just want to jam this through to the other side. And then this guy, I want to jam through to the other side, and I want to do it low so that it pulls this down so that it turns more into a heart shape. Do you know what I mean? So when I pull really hard, it pulls down so that it looks heart-shaped. And then I'm just going to come up a couple of times near the bottom, because that's the only part that I'm really worried about tacking down, is the bottom part. So the rest of it, we're going to be stuffing this, so the rest of it kind of just stays where it's at. And it kind of gives a 3D effect if you're not sewing all the way around, which I prefer, but it's completely up to you. If you want to sew it all the way around, you can. I'm just going to tie mine in a double knot in the back now that I've secured the bottom of the heart. And I'm going to make it fairly tight so it doesn't really move around a whole lot, but not too tight that it distorts. Cut off my green. Oh, I forgot to make freckles. So yeah, some leftover green could have made some freckles. I apparently forgot. So that's fine. Let's make some freckles. So they're just kind of over to the side here a bit. and there's generally 3 of them, so I'm going to leave a little at the back to tie with for when I'm done. I just need 3 freckles. So you just go in and out of the stitches wherever you want to go in and out of. Doesn't matter. There's really no rhyme or reason for the freckles. They're just there on his face. Almost like whisker marks, you know? So that's mine. And I think that's good enough. So again, I'm just going to tie everything. Now I'm not really going to pull super tight on the freckles because I don't want them to indent. Like, I don't want them to be sucked in. I'll pull tight on the second knot, but the first knot, not so much. There we go. So that's your nose with your freckles. I'm going to start sewing this to the face, and I'm going to stuff it when I have got just a little bit left. It's easier to do it that way. But that's because I'm not a sewer, so if you know of any easier way to sew this to the face, you can go right ahead. So you just need to find where you're placing it in between your 2 eyes. And we're going to do invisible, well, I'm going to do invisible stitches. I don't know about you, but just make sure everything's, you know, where it should be. You can use a pin if you want. I don't have mine handy. There we go. Put it up high enough because we're going to do a bottom lip. So put it up high enough that, you know, the bottom lip's not going to be, actually I'm going to move mine up closer to the eyes. But I am putting a bottom lip on this, so. And you want it to stick up kind of, you know, decently. Nice and round. So I'm going to go in as close as I can to the muzzle. And I'm going to go grab the doll and go up into the stitch. It helps to have a needle that has a hooked edge on it like that. And I'm going to do that all the way around, grabbing some doll and going up into each stitch. I'm not missing stitches, I'm doing every single stitch. And then pull up so that gets sucked underneath. So I am done mine with invisible stitches. As you can see, this looks like it was crocheted on. So that's what mine looks like. I know it's hard to show you in this camera. I'm going to go down into the white, and I'm just going to pop out wherever I pop out. And just for added security, I'm going to tie a knot. And I'm going to poke it down. So if anybody tries to do anything to my muzzle, like pull it off, this knot, in theory, is supposed to get lodged into the stuffing, and therefore they won't be able to pull it all the way off. So it's just an added safety feature. There we go. So now we got to do the bottom lip. So the lower lip is still done with our 4mm. We're going to make a magic ring. We're going to put 6 single crochets inside this ring. Once you get the muzzle on, it starts looking like a bear. Before that, it just looks super funny. The next rounds can be 1 single crochet and an increase. This will take you to 9 stitches. So that's 1 single crochet and an increase. You're going to do this 3 times. Or you can use your stitch marker, whichever you prefer. So for the next 2 rows, you're just going to put 1 single crochet in each stitch. So I would just count to 18. That's 18, and that is it. You can fasten off the little bit of a sewing tail. It doesn't take much to sew it to the bottom of the muzzle. So just shove this guy down in here. He can kind of act like filling. We're not filling this, we're not stuffing this at all. So all you're doing is folding it in half. It is much easier to sew it to your doll if this is closed. So just whip stitch the top of this. So a whip stitch is generally back loop to back loop, but you can just go under all of them. So if I'm over here, I gotta start back over onto this side. So once you have it closed, I know it seems super tiny, but it is just a bottom lip. Try to even it with the nose. So I'm just gonna hold it like that while I'm completely backwards. Let me turn it around. So I'm just going to hold it like that, and I'm going to do invisible stitches in the white. Here, you can't even see that. It doesn't take much, just 4 stitches. It's just getting the angle right to do your invisible stitches. It's not easy to sew on camera. So I've gotten all of that there. This will drop down by itself. Put everything back into, since I squished everything. So I'm going to go down into the corner. And I'm going to go up. Now, I don't really think anyone's going to pull my bottom jaw off. But you can tie a knot in this if you're concerned with your bottom lip coming off. I'm just going to cut it off because I don't think anything's going to happen. So you just need to fix everything. Fix your jaw, your bottom lip. There we go. So let's move on to ears. So the ears are also done with a 4mm hook. We're going back to this color of green. You're going to make a magic ring, and you're going to put 6 single crochets into the ring. Pull it tight. You're going to put 2 single crochets in each stitch around. So again, I'm just going to count to 12, but after the first stitch, if you're using your marker, it goes in after the first one, not the second one. Your next round is going to be 1 single crochet and an increase. Lost my marker. 1 single crochet, and then your next one's going to be your increase, and repeat. And then you're going to do 6 rows of 1 single crochet in each of the 24 stitches. So I'm at the end of my 6 rows. I'm just going to fasten off. So you're going to need a sewing tail. You're going to need enough to sew this top closed and then sew it to your bear. So when you put it together, make sure this is on the side. You're going to whip stitch this closed, and then when you sew it, you're going to make sure it stays concaved like that. So go ahead and make your second ear. Whip stitch this like I already showed you how, and then you can sew it to the top of your head. I'm going to show you how to sew one to the head, but again, I'm not a sewer, so I'll see you back here when you have your second one done. So I've got my one ear sewed on. Sewing on ears is not an easy thing, for me anyway. So I'm just going to go stitch for stitch. I'm going to hold it so that my stitches line up. And I'm just going to go stitch for stitch and do my whip stitch. So you're going to need to find the shape that you want. This is going to be so difficult to show you. I don't know if I'm going to be able to. So figure out first where you want it. And then without sewing, I'm going to try to show you what I did without sewing, because I'm going to need to hold this differently to sew. But I basically went down through the back of the stitches, these ones back here, and I went into the head. And I would pop out here somewhere, but then I would go back down the same hole and go through the front stitches back out to the back. So that's what I did to sew my ear on, if that helps. So you may have a better way to sew an ear on. It's very difficult, but you've got about this much room to do it. So sew your ear on and I'll meet you right back here. So I've got my other ear on, and I did some weaving, and I'm over here. I'm going to make a knot. I'm not going to make it tight because then it'll just slip through the stuffing. I'm going to cut it off, leave it a nubby, and I'm going to poke it down. So if anyone tries to rip my ear off, that hopefully will get lodged and they won't get the whole thing off. There we go. Now that it looks like a bear, let's move on to the belly. So to start the belly, we are going to start with our 5mm hook and some white. So we're going to make the ring, and then we'll get to making our shamrock after that. So let's start with a magic ring. And we're going to put 6 single crochets inside this ring. Your next round is going to be 2 single crochets in each stitch. So again, I'm just going to count to 12. That's my 12. My next round is going to be 1 single crochet and an increase. Your next round is going to be 3 single crochets and an increase, and your next round is going to be 4 single crochets and an increase. I'll put those 2 up on my screen. We're doing nothing but increases all the way to 8 single crochets and an increase, if that helps. If you want to work ahead. So your next 2 rounds are going to be 7 single crochets and an increase, and then 8 single crochets and an increase. Put it on your belly, see, because I don't know how you stuffed your bear, so put it on your belly and see if you have room to do just 1 single crochet around after, just so it doesn't look hexagon shape or whatever shape this is. It looks more round. But that's just an option. You can leave it just like this if you want. So 7 single crochets and an increase, and then 8 single crochets and an increase. So this is what you should have. Now I'm not, even though this looks like it's hexagon shape, I'm not putting a row of 1 single crochet around to round it out, because it will start to curl. So I need this to be nice and flat for the belly. So you should have 60 stitches as per my paw screens. They told you the counts. So you're just gonna do a slip stitch and fasten off. Now you're gonna need a sewing tail to sew all the way around. So go into this next stitch and pull this through. Pull up on that. And that is your belly. This guy here, doesn't really matter what you do with him. You can just cut him off with a little nubby. I'm just going to make a knot first, because that's just me. But make sure you leave a little nubby so it doesn't work its way open. So now that we've got our round belly, we are not going to sew this to the body yet. We're going to make our shamrocks. We'll sew the shamrocks to this, and then we'll sew it to the body. So set that aside. So you're going to need some green. And a 6.5 millimeter hook. Each shamrock, so we're going to make 4 of these guys, because it's going to be a 4-leaf clover type shamrock. I did not put a stem on it. I just made the shamrock. And I basically made 4 hearts. And then I sewed them all together. So that's what we're going to do today. If you know of a different way to make shamrocks, then by all means, you can do your own way. This is the way I chose to do it. There's plenty of different ways to make shamrocks. So start with a magic ring. And inside this magic ring, you're going to put 3 double crochets. That's my 3 double crochets. Now you're going to do 3 half double crochets. Just going to close my ring a little bit. So a half double is to yarn over and go in, and then just pull through all 3 loops. That's a half double. So do 3 of those. And now you're going to do a triple crochet. So yarn over twice, go into the ring, pull through 2, pull through 2, pull through 2. So you do that 3 times. That's why it's called a triple. You're going to chain 3, and you're going to do what's called a picot. So this is your triple. you're going to find these 2 pieces of yarn. I'll show you with my hook. There's a piece of yarn there and a piece of yarn there. Those 2 pieces, so right near the bottom, you're going to go into there and you're going to slip stitch. So that gives you a point on the bottom of your heart. So now we're going to work our way back up. So we do what we just did, but backwards. So now we're going to do 3 half double crochets. And try to keep this loose. You don't want to pull too tight, because it'll be out of shape if you do. That's why we're using such a big hook too. So 3 half doubles. I'm going to close my ring a little bit. Now you're going to do 3 double crochets. You're going to chain 2. You're going to pull your ring closed, and in the center hole in the middle of your ring you're going to do a slip stitch. That's why we did the chain 2. So you're going to come right down to the center of that heart. You're going to pull through. It can be a little awkward. Do a slip stitch. Bring it back to the back. Now pull everything tight. And there's your little heart. So we're going to make 4 of these. Well, 3 now. 3 more. And then I'll meet you back here and we'll sew them all together to make a shamrock. So I'm just making my last one here. I pulled my center too tight. Sometimes I pull my center too tight. So I'm just going to do my slip stitch. So I'm going to fasten off with a tail, obviously, to sew. You're not going to need all of these. We're not going to use all these tails, but you might as well just keep the tails for now. So when I pull tight on that, I'm going to pull down on my middle ring, so I close that, and then I'm going to tie these 2 together because your middle ring will keep popping open. So when I tie these 2 together, that pulls it right down the middle and it closes up that hole, so you get that nice shape. So I do a double knot, and then I cut one of them. So I'm going to cut the shortest one and leave a little nubby. Always leaving nubbies, because you don't want that to work itself loose, but that'll get tucked in behind when we sew. So I ran out of the green I had, so my greens are going to be different and the size is different for me. It's not going to be easy to see. This is Red Heart green. This is Bernat green. I actually prefer working with the Bernat over the Red Heart, but one is very more shimmery than the other one, but they're the same color, evergreen. So we are going to sew all the tails together like that to make our shamrock. That's what we're going to do. Just like that. So sew this together first, and then we'll put it on our white thing. So every single one of these has to get scooched down to the bottom, which is no super great big deal. And it also helps pull that down. So give it a nice tug. You're going to pull that knot down. You're going to create even a better shape to your bumps. So it all works out at the end of the day. So go ahead and do that. I'm going to do mine in fast motion. So, like I said, we're probably not going to use every single tail, but you don't know which one you're going to use, so let's start with the first two. We don't want to overcrowd what we're doing. You may have a different way to sew all this together. So I'm just going to put a couple of stitches into this, like that. I'm going to pull really tight, and I'm going to tie these two together. This is just added security. I am not confident in my sewing abilities. Just be careful of how you pull this. You don't want to pull the first knot too tight. You can pull the second knot as tight as you want. Alright, first two done. Now it is going to get harder to poke it through. And I don't find the red heart to be as soft as everything else. So, and then we put our fourth one on. Just make sure it's close enough that it's going to look like a 4-leaf clover. And then I'm going to go down through all of this again. I'm going to pull super duper tight. And I'm going to make a knot. Just be careful how much of a knot for the first one. And then the second one can be super duper duper tight, making it really small knot. So now that we've got it half-assed together, now we can start putting it on our white piece. So it's very easy to sew to the white belly part because you can just go down into it with all your pieces. So I'm going to do these first two. I'm going to leave those. So I just want to tack this in place. So I'm just going to go in and out. I am going to do long stitches in the back, but I'm going to do short stitches in the front because it may be noticeable. Make sure you get the dip. Make sure you get the dip. So just make sure you're keeping it in place. Pinning it's probably a good idea. I apparently lack the knowledge to use pins because I seem to never think about it. So we're going to tie all these together at the back too, so don't cut them. So there's one. I'm going to come across and do this one just to try to keep it even. Yeah, see, I don't really have it that even right now. So stay in the green part, don't go into the white part to sew. Not that I should be giving lessons on sewing, but so I don't think mine turned out very well because I think these should all be closer together. My first one that I did turned out great. It looks like that because I sewed it closer together. So I am not a huge fan of this, but hopefully yours turned out better. I sew way better when it's closer to my body, so I had to do it on camera and it always turns out not looking very good. So I'm just going to tie all these pieces in loose double knots at the back. And that's just going to hold everything. And then I'm just going to cut it off, leaving a nubby. And then this gets sewn to the body. So we'll do that next. So I did mine with invisible stitches. So I came in as close as I can to my white. I'm all blurry, sorry. Not sure why. Feel better. And then I just came up into the stitches. So once I have that done, you can just stay in the white. You can just go in and out all the way around like that, which actually might be a better idea. Like I said, me teaching people how to sew is probably not a good idea. So once you're done sewing, you can just go into the doll and you can pop out wherever you pop out. Push down on the doll and snip it off, and that white will get sucked back up inside whatever's left. There we go. Our Care Bear belly. I don't really like mine, but I don't mind mine on the first one I made. Anyway, arms and legs are next. So with our 5mm, we're going to get working on the legs. They probably take a little longer than the arms, so maybe it might be about the same. So we're not doing a magic ring for this. We're going to actually start off with a slip knot. And you're going to chain 13. You're going to do 3 single crochets. Then you're going to do 6 half double crochets. Then you're going to do 2 double crochets. And in this last stitch, you're going to do 4 double crochets in the same space. So pull your slip knot closed. You're going to turn your work sideways like this. There's your knot, your slip knot. So starting in the stitch right next to it, you're going to put a double crochet. Now I'm weaving in this tail from my slip knot. The next stitch you're going to put a double crochet. Then you're going to put 6 half doubles. That's my 6 half doubles. This should look like a rib cage. Stitches should be across stitches. That's how you know you've hit every stitch, you've done everything right. And now you're going to do 3 single crochets. Still weaving in my tail. I think I'm done now, it's just annoying. So that's my 3 single crochets. So now you're back up to where you started. So if you want to put a stitch marker in this next stitch, that will show your starting point. So there's 1 single crochet with your stitch marker. Alright, put another single crochet in the next stitch. Then we're going to do 4 half doubles. We're going to do 3 doubles. The next stitch is going to get 2 doubles in the same space. The next stitch is going to get 1 double. The next stitch, actually the next 3 stitches, are going to get 2 doubles in each. So when you see brackets written around my words, that means same space. That's why you see brackets written around there. Next stitch gets 1 double crochet. This next stitch gets 2 double crochets. So we're making the toe area, as you can see, starting to look like a foot. Now you're going to do 3 double crochets. Four half double crochets. That's my 4 half doubles. I weaved it in so I can just cut it off. And then what's left, you got 3 stitches left. Put a single crochet in each of those. So your next round is going to be 2 single crochet and an increase. That's number 1. That's 2, and then your increase. So you should have 41 stitches. So working in the back loops only, you're going to put 1 single crochet in each stitch around. So working in the back loops only. So, and you don't have to struggle to find them, these are your back loops. So they're standing right up looking at you. It's going to be easy peasy. So 1 single crochet in each of those using the back loops only. 41 stitches. So now you can turn it around. Your foot's coming together. So now I just want you to do 1 single crochet in each of the full stitches. So go into both pieces of yarn and do 1 single crochet. So this should make it really cup around. So our next round, we're going to do 17 stitches, 17 single crochets. That's number 1. That's my 17. So now you're going to decrease 4 times. That's once. Keep it loose. 2. 3. 4. And now you should have 16 single crochets back to your marker. And 16. So your next round is going to be again 17 single crochets. That's my 17, and I'm going to decrease 3 times. And now you should have 14 single crochets back to your marker. So your next round is going to be 15 single crochets. It's 15 single crochets, and then you're going to decrease 4 times. Keep it loose. And now you should have 11 single crochets back to your marker. So your next round is going to be 13 single crochets. That's 13. And now you're going to decrease 4 times. And now you should have 9 single crochets back to your marker. So as you can see, our foot's coming along nicely. The decreases give this artifact appearance, but you just got to watch how you stuff it. So for the next 15 rows, you should have 26 stitches. So for the next 15 rows, I want you to put 1 single crochet in each of those 26 stitches. And I will see you on the other side. So this is what it should look like. So I started stuffing mine, obviously. Stuff as you go, it's a lot easier that way. So to finish it off, so this leg's going to be sewn not where I normally would sew a leg on. This is a very different style of leg. It's going to be sewn to the side of the body. So we need this top to be rounded off. So we need to decrease a little bit. So because we have an oddball number, we're going to do 2 single crochet decrease 6 times. And then you're going to be left with 2 single crochets. So you're just going to put 1 in single crochet, or 2 stitches, so you'll just put 2 single crochets in. So that's number 1, that's 2, and a decrease. Six times, and then you've got 2 stitches left, so just put 1 single crochet in each of those. And it's just because we had an oddball number. We had 26 for our number, so now we should have 20 stitches. So your next round is just going to be 2 single crochet and a decrease, which should take you right to your marker. So we are going to fasten off and sew the rest shut. So go into your next stitch, do your slip stitch. You're going to need a long tail because you're going to go through the entire doll, and you're going to do that multiple times. So you're going to need quite a large tail for at least one of them anyway. A normal size sewing tail for the second leg. Doesn't have to be super long, but one of them at least has to have a super long tail. So let's finish putting some stuffing in this, and then we'll sew the top shut. So we want it nice and round and full to the brim, because we're going to be sewing into this multiple times, so we want a good amount of stuffing. So you're just going to make sure that when you make your second leg that you stuff it about the same. So we're going to close this shut like we always close stuff shut. So you're just going to pick up this one piece, in and out. Now you can do every stitch or you can do every other stitch. It really doesn't matter. It doesn't change how it looks. I just do all of them. So in and out all the way around. Doesn't take long, you only have 20 stitches. Two more left. So once you're done, you're just going to cinch that closed. And we're going to come across to the other side and back again. We're going to make our knot. So pull up and wiggle that knot back and forth. That tightens it. And that is your leg. So to start sewing, we're going to have to come down and kind of pop out the side here to start our sewing, because we're going to use this top part to sew to the doll. So we're going to go in and out of these 3 rows. So there we go. There's your leg. So you can make your other leg. I'll put my pattern on the screen so you don't have to rewind or anything. So I'll put my pattern up. You make your other leg. Stuff it so it looks the same. And I'll meet you back here and we'll sew them on together. So I've got both my legs done. I think they're fairly even as far as how I stuffed them. So we're gonna get our bear. So you're gonna take your leg and you're going to go into the side of the doll. So you can determine where on the side of the doll by just having him sit up and then figure out where you're gonna go in. So I would say somewhere around here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. That's the 11th row area. So I'm going to go in and I'm going to switch needles. Let me mark this spot or something. So I want an extra long needle. This needle came with my circular knitting machine, so I'm just going to use that. It's super duper long. So I'm just going to go in and you're going to go all the way across. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. And roughly, if you can, come out the same spot on the other side. And then just pull. Just like that. So I'm going to go back in just beside it. I'm not going to go too far. Somewhere just beside it. And I'm going to come back across and I'm going to go in through the leg. I just want to stay up near the top. Oops, I almost lost it. I did lose it. So I'm going to pull back this way. It doesn't matter if you pull tight, because ultimately when we're done this is going to be all squished together. That's kind of the look. It's supposed to do that. So I've come back around. I'm going to go back again, but this time I'm going to come out. Now I've got a tail on the end of this, but this time I come back around. I'm going to come into my other leg. So with doing it this way, these legs are going to move. So now go in as close as you can to this so it just looks like a stitch, because you don't want any of this to look that horrible. And we're going to go back in again, and we're going to pop out wherever we pop out, and now we're going to go through this leg. Trying to stay near the top of the leg. So I'm going to pull through, and I'm going to pull tight. So I'm going to come, if you can see what I'm doing, I'm going to go in as close as I can to my lead so it looks like a stitch. I'm going to pop out just on the other side here, just for a second, because I want to tie these two pieces together, and I'm going to pull super duper tight. That's just going to help secure my legs. So make a knot. I think I've got way too much yarn. So you're going to pull really tight. That's going to get sucked underneath the leg. So no one's going to see it. Make a double knot so that's nice and tight. So now my legs aren't going to move while I attempt to go back and forth and back and forth. Because now, I mean, it's nice and secure. Don't worry about this divot. They're on all bears. You can pull that out a little bit. I'll show you how. So now the legs go back and forth. So now he can sit down. Just like that. And then when you pick him up, the legs can go down. He can stand. I know it's hard to see on camera. So this leg, I'm kind of still over on the side, so I want to come try to get more into the middle. So that's going to be my goal for my next few rounds. So I'm going to go, sorry, I'm down here where I tied my knot, so I'm going to go into the doll. The problem with this really long needle is it likes to bend on its way through, so it's kind of hard to, oh my gosh, got everything in the way. It's kind of hard because it's very bendy, but it is the longest one I have. So I'm going to pull that through nice and tight. I'm going to go back down into the doll close to this. I'm going to come out, preferably in the same area. Nope, I'm coming out in a different spot. It is awkward. It's very hard to control when you got, if you have a normal size, if you have a normal needle that doesn't bend, then you're doing way better than me. Is I don't have one that doesn't bend. So I'm pulling tight on that again. But I don't want to pull too tight where it stops the movement of the legs. So one more time, I'm going to go back down with this one. I'm going to move this one too. So I come back out here. I'm going to take that out. I'm going to grab this one. We already tied a knot here, so I want to tie a knot on the other side. So that's up against the doll, so I'm not going into the leg, I'm just going into the doll. But I'm going to come out at the leg here. This leg's not very attractive. So I'm going to pop this out, trying to make the appearance of the leg a little bit better. There we go. A little bit better. So I'm going to tie a knot. I got way too much yarn. Cut some of this off. There we go. I always have too much, but it's always better to have too much than not enough. So I'm going to tie a knot. This can be a super duper tight knot, but I don't want it to stop the movement of the leg, so just be kind of weary about that. So once I have my knot tied there, and it's a tight double knot, so nobody's going to see the knot, I am going to go next to it, and I'm going to pop out wherever I pop out. So when I pull, you can't see the knot, it just pulls down. And then I'm just going to weave a couple of times here. Pull. Things might have to get popped out because... So you can tie another knot, and this will stop it if somebody tries to pull your leg off. The theory is this knot should get stuck in the filling, and then you can just push that down into the filling really well. Pull all the little parts of your body out that kind of got all crooked. There we go. My legs might be a little tight. They'll loosen up though. There we go. So now we just move on to arms, which are also going to be sewed on the same way. But first we need to make a thumb. So that's what we're going to do next. So you want to make a magic ring. You're going to put 4 single crochets inside this ring. We're making a thumb. Here's my 4 single crochets. Now I can pull this. Your next round is going to be 1 single crochet and an increase. Now you can use a stitch marker here, but you're going to do it 2 times because you only have 4 stitches. So you can kind of pop this right side in, close your magic ring a little bit better if you want. Next 3 rows is going to be 1 single crochet in each of these 6 stitches. So that's my 18. I'm going to go into the next stitch. I'm going to slip stitch and fasten off. You don't really need a long sewing tail, so I'm just going to cut a short little sewing tail. My tail for my magic ring can just get stuffed in there. And if you want, you can put a little bit of stuffing in here, but I don't think it's necessary. And what I do is I like to cut up my little scrap ends. Use it as filling. You don't want to hold too much because not a whole lot fits in this tiny little thumb. But it's nice and secure now. You can't really see it, the green through it, the darker green, so we can just set this aside for now. I'm just going to pull my slip or my knot closed. So we'll come back to that in a minute. And we'll get to making the rest of it. So make a magic ring. You're going to put 6 single crochets inside. So now you're going to do 2 single crochets in each stitch around. So I'm just going to count to 12, but if you're going to use a marker, it goes in after the first stitch, not the second one. That's my 12. Your next round's going to be 1 single crochet and an increase. It's my 1 single crochet, and then your increase of 2 single crochets in the same space. The next round after this is going to be 1 single crochet in each stitch, so you can go ahead and do that, and I will see you on the other side. Your next round is going to be 2 single crochets and an increase. That's number 1. That's 2 with your increase, and repeat. So this brings you up to 24 stitches, and then for the next 4 rows after this, I'm going to put 1 single crochet in each of those 24 stitches, and I will see you on the other side. So that's my 4 rows done. So now we're going to let me switch needles here. We're gonna add the thumb. So we're gonna crochet the thumb on, some like you would do similar to making a mitten. Actually, not similar to, exactly how you make a mitten. Well, some people. So I'm going to line this stitch up, which is where my tail is, to a stitch right here. So it's just right beside the stitch marker. I'm going to go into that stitch, and I'm going to kind of whip stitch just a couple of times. On my second pass, I'm going to make a knot, so I'm going to come back through that loop. My tail out of the way. Pull back and forth and make that a nice tight knot. Now this tail can just go into the mat. So now that we've got our thumb hanging there, we're just going to do 1 single crochet around. So go into your first stitch where your marker goes. And now your next stitch is going to be on the thumb. So here's where we sewed. So you got to go right into the next stitch beside where you just sewed. Keep it tight. And now you're just going to crochet around the thumb like your normal crocheting. 1 single crochet in each stitch. So when you come back around, do your last stitch on your thumb, because that's where we sewed. Go into the next stitch on the mat, pull this tight, and there, your thumb's now attached. And then we just continue on back around the marker, 1 in each stitch. So this should give you about 29 stitches, 30 stitches, whatever. I think mine was 29, which is an oddball number, but of course it is. But the hand looks good. It all worked out. So it doesn't really matter. Some people seem to think it does. If things are a little out of the ordinary, people don't like it. I get that. I've heard a lot of complaints about certain things I've made where, you know, the number is an odd number and they're like, it shouldn't be an odd number. You know, it doesn't matter. It does not matter. As long as it works out perfectly fine. Doesn't matter. And sometimes when you add things to things, it's just going to be an oddball number. As long as you're making that number, it shouldn't matter. So your next round, we're going to decrease. It's like you would a mitt, so you instantly decrease for this part of your hand. So that's number 1. We're going to do 5 single crochet decrease. 5 single crochets and then your decrease. So this brings you back down to 24 stitches, which is a more usable number. So that's 4 single crochets there, and then I'm going to put a decrease in. You can't finish it because it's an odd number. It's 29. Nothing goes in, divides into 29 evenly, so the last bit's going to be 4 single crochets and a decrease as opposed to 5 single crochets. So that's the only thing that's screwy, but it helps you get to the number 24, so that's what we have to do. So now that your thumb is completely attached, this is what it should look like. Our next round is going to be 4 single crochets and a decrease, and that's going to take you down to 20 stitches. So that's my 4 rows done. This is what it should look like. I haven't started stuffing mine yet, but it might be a good idea because this next part we're going to do is we're going to kind of make the arm bend a little bit. I'll show you the arm I already made. So this is what it's going to look like when it's done. And the arm curves this way a little bit, so that's what we're going to be doing. So when it's on the doll, it's kind of curved up. So let's start stuffing as we go. We don't have to stuff the thumb because we already did that. So we just have to stuff the little hand part. So your next 6 rows, this is what we're going to do. We're going to do 10 single crochets and 10 half double crochets. So you should have 20 stitches, which I did. I was short a stitch, so I had to fix it in my last 4 rows, but now I have 20 stitches instead of 19. So you're going to do 10 singles, so that's number 1 with your marker. Put my marker in the wrong spot again. There we go. Number 1 is your marker. And then I gotta do 10, so you should be about the middle of the mitten. And now we're gonna do 10 half double crochets. And all this is doing is making the arm turn. It's just another way. There's lots of different ways to do it. It's just another way to make your arm bend. And we're going to do this for 6 rows. So you don't really need a marker. So 10 singles. And then 10 half doubles. So that's what it should look like. You can kind of see where this is higher, obviously, this is lower. So the next 4 rows can be 1 single crochet in each stitch, and you'll be able to feel the curve at that point. So you still have 20 stitches. Alrighty, time to decrease. Finish this hand off. I just stuffed mine so you can see the curve, obviously, in your own and in mine. So the last couple of rows can be one single crochet and a decrease. So the first one single crochet decrease takes you down to 14 stitches. And then you're going to do it again. One single crochet and then your decrease. So you kind of just jump right into it. So the reason I'm doing 2 rows of one single crochet decrease and not just decreases is because I don't like the way that it looks, and this arm's going to be visible, like it's not being, you're going to see the top of it. So I kind of just wanted a better look for it. I'm not sure why I have an extra stitch, but I have an extra stitch. So, and we'll just put one single crochet in there. So your next row obviously is one single crochet decrease again, and then you can fasten off, and we will sew the top shut. You can fasten off. We're gonna have to put more stuffing in it. So again, you're going to need a long tail because you need to go through the whole bear. I probably have too much again, but so let's add some more stuffing. I want the top to be decently round. Because again, we're going back and forth like we did with the legs. It'll be the same concept. I'm going to use a little bit of a smaller needle this time. So to sew the top shut, we're going to do the exact same thing, in and out, all the way around. And I'm going to go in this one. I'm back around to the beginning, but I got one more. So, and then we're just going to make a tiny little knot. Back and forth to tighten that knot down. So again, so your thumb has to be at the top of the doll. So we're going to go down and pop out the side. And just give it a tug. That kind of drops that down a little bit. So go ahead and make your second arm. Mine's already made. Go ahead and make your second arm, and I will meet you right back here. Okay, so our arms are done. I'm going to do this the exact same way that I did the legs. I'm going to leave a bit of a space between the head and the neck, just so if the kids want to turn, they can at least turn the arm up that high. But if it was higher, it would kind of stop it a little bit. So figure out where you want it. So I'm going to go back through again. I'm going to tie a knot with my other string from my other arm. So with the other legs, or with the legs, I went through again a couple more times, but the arms, I didn't feel it was really necessary to do that. So the only thing that I am doing now, I'm going to use a real needle, is with this one, I'm going to weave from here. I'm going to have to pass this through to the other side, obviously. But from here, I want to go back into the doll. And I just want to weave. And then this one, I'll have to use my long needle again. So this guy, and it's so hard to show you on camera. So this guy, I'm going to go, I'm not into the arm, I'm into the body. So I'm just going to go into the body. And I'm going to come out into his arm. Back down the arm, and I'm gonna weave. So the only thing left that we have to do, so if you don't like this, I just lost my stitch marker. So if you don't like this, which I'm not a fan, so I did this to my other bear. I just pulled up. Now you're not going to change how tight this is secured to the doll. It's still going to be secure. But just pull up on this a bit. It won't make all of it go away, but it'll make some of it go away. So you can do that to the legs as well, because I'm not a fan of how this looks. Now you can get rivets to put your legs on, doll rivets, but why spend the money if you can do it this way? So I'm just going to pull up a bit just so it's not so defined. Looks a little bit better. So now we just have to do his bum bum. Let me grab my other doll. So this is his little tail, and on every Care Bear they have a little heart on their bum. So that's going to be what we do next, and that'll finish off our project. So you're going to need 3.5 millimeter, but I think this is an E. It'll be up on the screen. I'm going to use that with a 4-weight yarn. We're going to make the heart for his butt, and then we'll make the tail. So you need to make a magic ring. I'll get my red out of there. So inside this ring, you're going to put 1 single crochet. Keep it loose. Half double crochet. A double crochet. A triple. Oops, my yarn just split. There we go. You're going to chain 2 and picot to grab those 2 pieces of yarn. Pull through and slip stitch. That's your picot. I am stuck on my pin cushion. Then you're going to put a double crochet. Keep it loose. You're going to put a half double. You're putting a single. You're going to chain 2. So now you can pull all of this shut. Now this doesn't have the definition that my other one does, just because it's smaller. You go into the center. We're doing the exact same thing. You're going to slip stitch, which is super awkward. You're going to pull everything. You're going to fasten off with a sewing tail. So same thing as before, you're going to pull your center on that heart to close it right up. And then tie these 2. Now, when you make your knot, try to make your knot back here. So it pulls down. So really tight. Make it double. Gives it a little more defining aspect of the heart, but it is very hard to get definition. Did I say heart? It's very hard to get definition out of such a small piece. I don't want this thing boinging back up. I'm going to cut it off, but before I cut it off, I'm just going to tuck it away just so it doesn't boing up when I'm trying to sew it on. So I'm going to pull really hard down on that, hoping to define my bumps a little bit. So make the tail and then we'll sew the 2 pieces on. So with the tail, we want a point on this tail. So, oops, drag my heart back over there. You're using a 5mm make a magic ring with 6 single crochets, or sorry, 4 single crochets, because we want the point. So do 4. I actually didn't even write it down in my pattern. You can pull that closed. I'm going to have to adjust my pattern because I forgot to even write it down. I can't seem to move my cursor. I don't know why I didn't write that down. It took me a month to design this doll, so I hope you are enjoying it. Alright, now that that's in my computer, you're going to do 1 single crochet and an increase. You only have 4 stitches, so you don't really need a marker. You're just going to do it twice. This guy is always a good indication as to where you should be. So before we go any further, pop that the right side in. Make sure your middle is nice and tight. Your next round is going to be 2 single crochets and an increase. You have 6 stitches, which means you can use a stitch marker. Oh, I lost my stitch marker because I just knocked it on the floor. I'll grab another one. I've got millions of them. So that's number 1. Number 2. Then your increase. And one more time. Your next round is going to be 3 single crochets and an increase. So again, you're just doing this twice. But we'll use our marker. I generally don't, but for the video, 3 single crochets and then your increase. So this will bring you up to 10 stitches. We're only gaining 2 stitches around. And your next round is going to be 4 single crochets and an increase. So we want this to turn. I'm going to snip my little tail off there. Before it gets annoying. So I want our tail to kind of, it's hard to explain. So we're going to do 6 single crochets and 6 half doubles for 2 rows. So 6 single crochets. And then 6 half doubles. Six single crochets. And 6 half doubles. So your next 2 rows are just going to be 1 single crochet in each stitch. You should have 12 stitches, so just count to 24. That's 24. I went to 25. So you got a little bit of a curve in your tail, which is great. We can now fasten off. You need a sewing tail. We're sewing this open. We're not closing it. So go into your next stitch. Pull this through. Pull up. So let's stuff this guy, and you're going to have to stuff it so it has that dip in the tail. You don't have to put a whole lot into this guy. So that's what his tail should look like. We can sew everything to his bum bum. And then we are done. So make sure that you're going to put this in the right spot. I got a pin ready. So your tail curves up like that. So I'm going to try to find the middle. So I'm going to just do invisible stitches all the way around. So back around to where I began. Actually, I might have to do one more stitch. So pull nice and snug, and then you can just weave. And then you can tie a knot just like we do with everything else, just in case the child, if this is going to a child, tries to pull this off. The stuffing should stop that from happening. So let's get his butt up into the air right now, because this heart needs to get sewn on. And it goes on the left side. Well, you can put it on any side you want. And you can put it anywhere you want. It doesn't matter. It's closer to the leg than it is the tail, honestly, if you look at the pictures of a Care Bear. So when I design things, I try to do as close as I can to what it actually looks like. There we go. So I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. We're all done now. I really hope you enjoyed this tutorial, other than screwing up my 4-leaf clover. But I'm just going to stretch this out and probably just use some fabric glue and glue it in better. I might take a piece of thread and fix that after, like off camera. Either way, I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. It took me a month to design this guy, so I wanted to get him as close to looking like a Care Bear as I could, and I think I did a pretty good job, so I hope you like it. Thanks for joining me, guys. I'll see you in the next video.